Yep, approaches of pen testing. All right, a black box goes back to physics. You know, it's something that something goes into it and something comes out of it. We don't really know what's inside the box. So if you imagine here, you're blind. They said, here's a pen test. We said, okay, and that's it. They don't give you any information about the actual target, right? Maybe they define the scope, hopefully they define the scope to include or not include the physical aspects of it. But other than that, you do not have a lot of information going into it.
Yeah.
So this is what a hacker would do. And he has to figure it out from day one. So that's really the definition of black box. You guys want to add anything to that?
Yeah, no, I mean, I think that.
All right.
That's exactly it.
White box is the opposite, right? Here they give you the information. You know the internal workings. You have maybe an architectural diagram or some IP addresses before you begin. The reason you might want to do a white box is if you had a very limited pen test, in other words, one designed to test only one aspect, and you needed to define everything else so they don't destroy that as part of the test. That's the only time I think about testing as a white box.
We do white box testing here internally. That's just testing yourself, but you know all of the user accounts that should be there because you know who does what in the company.
Right.
You know the IP ranges. You know what hardware and software there is.
You have your own
to attack.
You have your company network diagram.
Right.
You know, that kind of stuff.
And that's white box testing, and it's very useful if you are doing it yourself, because it also means you can say when you're going to do it and how you're going to do it in a way that's not going to break you.
Right, but as part of an external pen test, I would argue that this is rarely, if ever, done. Because you're not going to give everybody that information and then say, okay, you test it for us.
Yeah, and this
right?
slide says
you test it for yourself.
The most robust type of pen testing. Honestly, I think from a realism standpoint, it would be gray box, right? Because you're going to hand the pen tester maybe a network diagram, you know, with the scope, with the rules of engagement. You're going to give them maybe a list of materials. Say, here's what I'm going to give you to get you started. That would be gray box.
I agree. And this, if I were a PSAP or an ECC, a public safety answering point or emergency communication center, I would probably, if I was going to do a pen test, I would focus in on gray box. The reason is I don't want you to do X and I don't want you to attack Y, right? So these are the things that are out of the band of the attack. So I'm going to give you some limited information and see how well you do against the things I desire you to do.
And it's only going to be with regard to what's in scope.
Right,
So
and that's really clearly defined. If you're going to do it, do a gray box and define the scope. Here's my question to you. If you're going to do that, how do you make sure that it's still a good pen test, right? Oh, they didn't get in. Well, they didn't get in because I told them how to try. Mm-hmm. Am I defining the test such that the test becomes useless?
Yeah, or at least severely diminishes the usefulness.
Right, the usefulness of it. Okay, great. I know that the thing I think I was protected is protected.
Right. Now you put all these rules on the pen tester and they can't do what a criminal would do.
Right. So once again, we get into the point of, did we break the test before it begins?
One of the things that you'll see in here that we talk about a lot when we do a readout of an assessment is an average user could do this if they had bad intentions or permissions were stolen. We talk about that a lot. That is actually a significant vulnerability though, because one of the big hassles in cybersecurity is the internal attack, is we joke, those of us at a certain age joke about disgruntled postal employees. Is somebody actually going after their own company because they're upset?
So you're referring to insider threat specifically?
Yeah.
Yeah, and or you didn't include the right steps as part of the exit policy, right? When somebody leaves, did we reset their passwords? Did we take all that away? And let's say they take with them some knowledge, no matter what. They know the IP addresses that they at least had. They probably saw a network diagram at some point. They know the different functional aspects of the company or PSAP, right? And so the point is they could use that against us later on. in most cases, public safety doesn't have to deal with as large an insider threat risk as, let's say, a corporation or a bank or an insurance company or somebody else. One, because our people are usually here for the right reasons, but that also lulls us into a false sense of security because we assume that they're all good, right? That's always the nature.